Hey, what's up guys? Hope everybody's doing well today. Today I wanted to do basically a summary of the Bible from start to finish. Probably something I should have done a while ago, considering the purpose of this channel is to point people towards the Bible, but I haven't, so here I am. I'm not going to talk about the durations of each event or what books they occurred in. I have another video called Biblical Timeline, when each book was written, that'll give you some more detail on that. But I really just want to go through the sequence of patriarchs and how we get to Jesus. So basically in the beginning you have Adam and Eve. He had Cain and Abel and Seth were his sons. A couple generations later, you get to Noah. By this time, the earth was corrupt and God decided to flood the earth. So Noah and his family famously made it through that on the ark. After that, they kind of repopulated the earth, and a few generations later, you get to Abraham. Now, Abraham is who the promise was made to. God made a promise to him, I'll make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand in the sea. So Abraham had Isaac, Isaac had Jacob. Jacob wrestled with God and became Israel. So the nation of Israel is actually the 12 sons of Jacob. One of Jacob's sons, Joseph, was sold by his brothers to some traders, and the traders brought him to Egypt, and he was established there as basically a great leader. Eventually his brothers, there was a famine in their land and they came to Egypt looking for food. They found their brother that they had sold into slavery, and he brought all of the Israelites to Egypt and allowed them to live there. So over several generations, they became extremely numerous, and this is why you end up with so many Israelite slaves in Egypt at the time of Pharaoh. Then Moses comes on the scene. Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, hey, let my people free, and you get the plagues, the first Passover, and then Moses is able to bring his people out of Egypt. From there, they wander in the desert, and this is where you get the 10 Commandments established on Mount Sinai, and he's handed all the laws, statutes, and commandments. After they wander through the desert, eventually they cross over the River Jordan into the Promised Land, and they establish the nation of Israel. They have some judges as their rulers for a while, Israelites that essentially judge between each other. But eventually they wanted a king, and they ended up with King Saul. At one point, King Saul was at war with the Philistines, and there was a big giant named Goliath that nobody would fight. And this little farmer boy named David came and decided he would fight Goliath, and he ended up killing him with a stone. And this is who ends up becoming King David. King David's son was Solomon, who had the greatest reign of all in Israel. And shortly after the reign of Solomon, the nation of Israel started breaking apart. You get a fracture, so some of the tribes go south and become the nation of Judah, and the rest stay in the north, and they are the nation of Israel. Eventually the Assyrians come in and they capture Israel, and then later on the Babylonians come in and capture Judah. So that is how Judah and Israel end up getting scattered. Through that time is when you get all the prophets. So when you're reading Isaiah, Malachi, Zechariah, Obadiah, so on and so forth, it's the prophecy during the time of essentially those nations going into captivity. Shortly before, shortly after, they're prophesying to Israel, to Judah, and they're also prophesying about the coming Messiah, which is very important. Eventually, Persia takes over Babylon, and the Persian government allows the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who they call themselves the Jews. They allow the Jews to rebuild the temple, and this is the temple that Jesus ends up teaching in the New Testament. So they reestablish the temple, they reestablish the law. And then, by this time you're getting towards the end of the Old Testament. From Malachi at the end of the Old Testament to Matthew at the beginning of the New Testament, there's like a 400-year gap. Some of the older Bibles talk about what happens during that time period, but essentially Persia is taken over by Greece, and then Greece becomes Rome. You get into the New Testament, and then the Roman government is in charge, but the Jewish people have their own sub-government underneath the Roman government. And then here, this is the time of Christ. So Christ fulfills all the prophecies that was spoken about by not only the prophets, but Moses and David himself. So he is the Messiah that has been talked about the whole time. And then after Christ dies and is resurrected, you get all the letters written by Paul and some of the other apostles, and then you go into Revelation. So that's a quick timeline from start to finish. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them down low in the comments. And again, thank you very much. I hope you have a blessed day.